Okay, hi, I'm host of Fit People. Thanks for joining me to discuss the exciting world of set and type theory. Not personality type theory. That's what I was thinking I was Googling. But instead, I found out about type theory that has to do with set theory. So, set theory requires a propositional logic, that is to say, the rules of the field, the rules of the ecosystem, are set, and objects on the field do things or don't do things and receive impacts or don't receive impacts. And those are the variables in the system. And so set theory has to do with that. But what opened up type theory was Bertrand Russell's paradox of something or whatever he called it. And it basically says that the ability within set theory to produce a set of all sets that don't contain themselves is obviously a paradox, and that we need some new conceptual framework to understand where the limitations of set theory produce this paradox. So obviously, the notion of a set of all sets that don't contain themselves is paradoxical, because if the set doesn't contain itself, then it must contain itself. And if it does contain itself, then it mustn't contain itself. So, because if it's a set of all sets that do not contain themselves, then as soon as the set's completed and it doesn't contain itself, then it needs to add itself to its own set, and then it does contain itself, so it would need to remove itself from the set. But then it does contain itself, so then it would need to add it to the set. So it creates what's called a vicious cycle, or a loop in computer programming. And you don't want those loops, because if your computer program has some sort of stuff built into it that functions like that paradox, that creates a set of an object class or something that says, which is, how you I'm assuming you know a little something, probably about as much as me, but not very much, about computer languages. But the thing is, once you've defined a certain object in a class as having certain attributes, then potentially, if you're writing code based on those definitions, then you could create yourself a loop, and your progression of operations would break down, because you would get stuck on that. It would go, member set, change, evaluate, change, not member set, evaluate, change, member set, evaluate, change, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So that would be a limit then to set theory, and that's why they invented, they meaning some math people, came up with type theory, which says basically it's set theory, but it allows you to define things beyond just objects and actions and functions and shit in the system. It allows you to define rules, or basically things that will deal with that. So you can go in set theory, for example. You have to say, and this and this is true, because and always means the same thing, and that doesn't change. But in type theory, you can say, in certain contexts, we'll define and in different ways. In this context, and is and. In this context, and is or. And in this context, and is the command to print screen or something. So that's where it opened up the ability to deal with the paradox, because you can deal with the paradox in a couple of different ways. One of them is a principle of reductionism that says you can't use the thing itself in any definition of a thing. So the problem with the Bertrand Russell paradox is that it uses the thing in itself as part of the definition of the thing. So it says, okay, well, the set is defined as all sets that don't contain themselves. And so it's using as part of its definition itself. It's saying, test this by seeing if you yourself are, but it's defining the idea of the set of all things of this particular set things that don't contain themselves requires it to use the word themselves in the definition, and that's why it's bad, because you end up with non-reducibility. In other words, you can't scaffold, you can't break it down. So, for example, if we think of 2 plus 1 as being an element or an object or a mia, 2 plus 1 is a mia, but 3 is a mia, 2 plus 2 is a mia, 1 plus 2 is a mia. So 1 plus 2 and 2 plus 1, they both reduce down to 3, and that's its most reducible form. And if you have a system that reduces to 3 in different ways, so 1 plus 2 equals 3 in addition system, but 1 plus 2 in this system over here, plus means in this context the following thing, but they can both reduce to 3, then you need some sort of transliterative process to explain, to make those languages communicate to each other. Because one of them is using one of them is using statement connectives, for example, which are like grammatical elements of any language. Statement connectives as firm. They don't ever change. They're not contextually dependent. And one of them is using them as being able to be defined as objects themselves, for example, instead of connectives. So, and if you think about how we actually interact with them, we do that all the time. We scaffold up and down in terms of set classifications with all kinds of shit, left and right. And the last thought I had on this, and the reason I found it so interesting, is that this links in ways that I don't quite understand yet. But I'll throw out the link's there and let you guys ideate about it independently too. This links somewhere to the agent, subject, object, objectivity, subjectivity division thing that I've talked about before, which is my position on this is that most people, the reason we don't have good, clear consensus and understanding about objectivity and subjectivity is because these things are not evaluated correctly. And they're missing one of the components. There's agents, that's you. Subjects, that's people doing actions. You can be both. But you can have an agent, a subject, and object. If we're talking about only people, the object is the person receiving the action being done. The reason why it's important to take this into consideration is because we only have that subject verb object construction for a reason. Because the agent who's doing the perceiving has to perceive these parties, one of them as being receiving of an action, for the action to have definition. Now, granted, there are some actions that don't require an object, and that's fine. We have no problem conceiving of actions that aren't interactive with objects, but as long as we do perceive of an action as interacting with objects, then we must perceive, and if one of the objects being interacted with is a person, then we have to perceive that person as the object of the action. In other words, we perceive that person as not an agent in and of themselves, really, although we may consider that stuff in the impacts, but we think of them as simply a variable in a system. In other words, the set of things being having stuff done to them includes this, and the set of things of people doing things includes this, and the set of constructions that are manifest by my perception of them contains both those things. And so when we're talking about objectivity and subjectivity, we can say another subject is behaving objectively or subjectively based on our objective or subjective perception of their cognition, which we can only really know approximately or through data or conclusions. So that can be supported strongly or weakly, but can't really be proven per se. So, and the thing is, that's where we get complications of subjectivity and objectivity, is there's not an accounting of that third party. It's where we get problems with all kinds of objectivity breakdowns. It comes from the fact that we're not acknowledging the fact that every objectively so description of something is is definitely factually and purposefully excluding 1/3 of the perspective equation, namely the agent perspective, because it wants to reduce all experience into approximations and representations of sets. Right? So that's my thoughts on all of that stuff. If anybody else would like to talk or comment, please have the floor. And then when everyone's done, we'll stop the video. If nobody wants to, it's fine too.
So did you type her?
She's not here.
Oh,
She hasn't been here all evening. Kimberly desperately wants me to type Brittany.
No, I'm talking about her. I thought you were typing.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you're talking about her. Oh.
And that's exactly what I told you to freaking not do.
Well, I thought you brought it up. No, I don't know what she is. What type are you? What type do you think you are?
You talking to me?
Yeah, Courtney.
Oh, hear myself.
As far as I know, I'm an ENTP.
Okay. That was my first guess right off the bat. If you feel like a quadrumate.
I feel like every time I come here, I'm in a different state of mind than what I would consider my healthy ENTP self. So I feel, and that's kind of why I come here. I come here for understanding. I'm just trying to understand what's going on. But lately, it's I don't under. How do I want to word this? I feel like I'm under a lot of anxiety and stress, but I don't recognize it as anxiety and stress, and therefore
I don't know how to put it into words. I kind of wanted to come here and ask some people what an unhealthy ENTP might be like, and see if I'm exhibiting those qualities.
Okay.
I feel like I'm stuck. Let me ask
you about these. Let me ask you about these feelings, experiences, things. So, when you note that yesterday, not when you're feeling it in the moment, but when you realize at some point, like tomorrow morning, you go, "Oh, yesterday I was in a really weird mood," or I was really not happy yesterday. Or, gosh, I was a lot more anxious than I thought I was yesterday. So, do you have this experience when you say, how familiar are you experientially with these feelings you're describing?
I just kind of I block it all into one feeling, and it's probably not the right thing to do, because I recognize there are different feelings at different times, but I kind of block it all into just this dark feeling that I get into, like almost like a slump where I'm not my true self.
Is it more like hollow? Is it more like hollow or more like overwhelmed?
No, but I felt both, and I blocked them together, which is again what I've been saying. Like I chunk them together as my dark me, like just not being healthy, not being who I really am, or who I.
Okay, well, but see, hollow.
Not even who I really am, because it's a part of who I am.
But okay, here's my take on hollow versus overwhelmed. Overwhelmed's an actual problem.
No. Right. So wait, hold on. Before you carry on, I understand that. So I'm right now it's overwhelmed, but I've also felt hollow. But I put them in just like, I call it my dark space. Like if I.
Okay, I personally think hollow's implicit to ENTP, and duality mostly cures it. But even then, there's a certain hollowness to being an FI polar that means you're never going to quite shake it. It's the feeling at the end of the day when you get home and you've had a good day and you've had a lot of fun and you realize, where's the residue? Where's the excrement of the experience? Like, what's left behind that has weight and meaning that I can grasp onto and understand? And there's a challenge we have because we don't have a clear understanding of our own authentic valuing FI, and as a consequence, things don't have as much weight for us as sometimes we think they ought to have. Like ISFPs, they feel the weight of the world so much the whole time they're living that they're not. If you ask ISFP, "Are you afraid to die?" They'll be like, "No, I'm afraid it might be painful." Well, why aren't they afraid to die? Because life's heavy. INFPs, life's fucking heavy. Carrying around all those feelings all the time. So the alternative to heavy is you're gonna have to experience a little hollowness. The overwhelmed thing, though, if you're feeling anxiety and overwhelmed, that means you're spending too much time doing shit you don't want to do.
I mean, that's probably what it is right now. I've watched I've never thought I was a depressed person. I think mostly because my mother was depressed, so I fought the idea that I would ever be depressed. But I watched a TV show recently, and the way they described depression, I was like, fuck, like that was me. And it was basically just an emptiness of feeling. That's the only way I can describe it. It's like feeling nothing. Where you just don't, like, no passion, no nothing. Like you say empty or hollow, I say empty.
Okay, well,
And
a lesser degree of
I
that.
switch between.
I don't know if the explicitly sad stereotype of depression really applies to NTPs, you know, the same as it does to the general population. Like,
Basically,
we won't identify with the feeling.
What
All
you
we'll
just
know is that
described
it's
here.
bad. I mean, we go black and white like that. This is just a bad thing.
What you just described, though, about feeling unmotivated, not like nothing's fun, nothing excites you, nothing seems interesting. That experience, in more mild forms, is just simply known as meow, and it's an experience of yeah. I have meow all the time, and it sucks, but you know, not all the time. That's the thing. I have it periodically. Did you take Adderall?
Mm-mm.
Okay, well that's part of the
Don't.
problem. That'll help manage your meow.
Really? I feel like I feel like I've learned to live with the meow. Like I know when it's happening and I recognize it, and so I just shut down. Like I don't really talk to people. Like I do this thing where like I just ignore people and I go into the meow.
Okay, well, I've got a possibly
Jesus.
useful suggestion, which is SI. SI the fuck out of yourself. So it's like,
What does that mean?
what that means is when I'm feeling meow, I'm doing my goddamn best to not pace around and going, meow. I'm feeling so meow. Instead, what I do is I go take a bath, I lie in the bed, I read a book, I say, Kimberly,
Lying in
whine-
bed's not helpful.
whine at Kimberly. Lying in bed is not helpful. It's so comfortable though.
But it's not for me. It's like I'll just be there. I'll just stay there forever. I can just listen to slow music and just fucking meow all day in bed, and that's not.
That's
I
not
need to
good.
get up and play video games. That's what I
You
need
need
to do.
Adderall. You need to take Adderall.
I get what you're saying. Like I know, but like I fought the idea that I might need that.
What things
I'm
do you
still gonna
do
fight it.
that produce objects, probably metaphysical objects, not physical, but it could be physical objects. What things do you do that produce objects that you link to your identity that persist? The problem with playing video games is it's not a persistent identity link. It's not an object you create.
It's not. I don't. That's, I
Okay,
think that's
well,
maybe the part
that's
of the
why you
problem.
feel so fucking meow. If you had something to grasp onto, you'd be like, okay, well, I'm making this thing. Yeah, but that's dumb, Courtney. You're going to tell yourself, this is not good, and I'm just dumb. I don't know what I'm doing. Well, just get it done, even if it's half-assed, and you go like, okay, it's done. I'm going to put it over there. And make a little pile. And then you go like, hey, look, I got a little pile of things over there. And then you go look at it again, and you go, you know what, that one wasn't so bad. You gotta have some sort of object. I mean, it could be poems, could be, again, political rants, could be. You could do a podcast about turtle watching.
Turtle watching. Yes. You've pinned me.
You look
That's
like a
the
turtle
one.
watcher, yeah. Bird watching is too high-paced
am.
an activity for you.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah,
why you
screw
would
that
switch to
noise.
Birtles.
Give me all the
Turtle
turtles.
watching is
Turtles.
only-
All kinds of turtles.
Turtle watching is only 6 months out of the year.
I get what you're saying. I think one of the I went through some like really, I guess the deepest part of depression after someone in my life died, and the only thing that brought me out of it was journaling. But it wasn't even like writing thoughts, it was just writing down tasks, believe it or not. Not completing the tasks, but just writing them down. Does that count as
Well, I mean, I
expression?
know
Or
that.
like drawing. I really like drawing.
Well,
doodler.
drawing definitely counts as making objects. Just it doesn't matter if it's doodles or whatever. Save all the pages. Put them in a little binder and start making them look like a presentation, and all of a sudden you feel a lot better about them. So the thing is, though, I know death can be hugely impacting, and I don't even have like anything comparable, I'm sure, to your story, but because the death that impacted me dramatically was my dog died. What happened in, well, it was a big deal.
No, my cat, though. It was. I fucking relate to that shit. I had a cat. I'm an only child, and I grew up with a cat, and the cat died, and I feel like it's so ridiculous talking about it to people,
not-
but like, it really fucking hit home for me.
I get you.
She was a
Listen,
cat.
I can't.
Introduce Smitty.
Kim will tell you I cannot talk about.
No, not me.
Oh, introduce Schmitty. Oh, okay. You know, what I'm saying, I cannot talk about Lacey usually without crying because, she got run over by a car. I had her for like a long ass time, like 12, 13 years or something. And, she was my precious angel. She slept with me every night. She went with me everywhere. I never had her on a leash. She just walked next to me and stuff. She was a very important dog. Anyway, and she got hit by a car, and I had to come home and she get her body from the street and bury her and stuff. It was awful. Anyway, for about 7 full days, I was in this traumatized state of SI. My house, which was normally a shithole because I never did any SI, I just did NE all the time. I'd always be making new projects and playing with shit and never cleaning them up. So, it was a disaster over there. Anyway, for a week straight, I just sort of picked up, did laundry, cooked a meal, sat down, ate it, took a shower, cleaned up a little bit more, lay down, rested. I just did that for like a week and cried a lot, That was my response to the trauma of death. I would say that if you are an ESTP, then your response to trauma would be to try to find some sort of NI solution, which is you will probably maybe seek somebody else to tell you simple truths that are important and self-evident but not necessarily obvious. So it's like somebody will come in and say, define for you what's really important to remember about this person you lost. Well, remember that this thing, like, know this, they wouldn't want you to be so sad or something. And then to you, if you were an NI seeker, that would make you feel better, is a lot of NI stuff like that. So if you're an SI seeker, you're going to coddle yourself, take baths and stuff like that when you're feeling traumatized. If you're an NI seeker, you're going to find either maybe like start believing in some astrology or conspiracy theory thing or whatever to give you solace. Like, okay, you know what? I'm just going to go to my astrologer every day this week and get my tarot cards read, and that's going to be the solution. That might be an NI seeking thing to do too. But which one do you think you're more like?
See, that's the tricky. Like, so this is like the first big death, and I still feel ridiculous talking about it. But like, it hit really fucking hard. I looked up, like, I'm not religious at all, so I didn't understand afterlife. And I looked up, everyone kept telling me, go see a psychic. So I looked up psychics. I never followed through. But like, and I guess the only other person I really talked about it was my mother, who
Wait,
also owned the cat.
They told you to see a psychic about the cat?
Yes, don't.
Did this? Okay, I don't look. I understand. I didn't get. I thought you were talking about a person. You were talking about an animal too.
No. I am actually talking about a cat.
That does not minimize it at all for me. I understand. Lacey's death was the most traumatic thing that I think has ever happened to me, with the possible exception of catching my first wife cheating on me. Yeah, it was extremely traumatic. Anyway, so yeah, I get it that's awful, but I don't understand what the psychic's gonna do. Is the psychic gonna tell you what the cat says from beyond the grave?
I don't fucking know. That's why I never did anything with it. But do you want, honestly, like what I looked up was like how to deal with it, because I didn't understand what I was feeling. Like I was having such a hard, like I didn't understand if I was angry. I was pissed off for the longest time.
Did you cry?
I was pissed off that it happened. Of course I cried.
Okay, so when you cried when you were by yourself,
I like hysterically cried.
Okay, but listen to this question. When you're by yourself and you were crying, do you ever think to yourself, who am I putting this show on for?
No. What do you mean? No, I was just feeling, I guess.
Well,
I was just I was pissed off that so we had to put the cat down. The cat had medical problems. I'm trying to detach myself right now. That's why I'm referring to the cat as the cat. The cat had medical problems. We had to, like, it was 4 o'clock in the morning. We had to put the cat down. And so I blame myself. Even though I know it wasn't me.
No, Courtney, it was you.
Like, pissed off and angry, man.
No,
it was me, Eric. It was me.
It's not,
Stop,
Courtney,
man.
you it's not just you blaming yourself. I'm blaming you. Everyone blames you. It's your fault.
Eric,
You're an asshole.
stop it.
I'm just telling it like it is, Kim, okay? I'm just telling it like it is.
It's cool. He can say, I've tried to make peace with it. I've already made peace with it. Or whatever people say.
So, okay, so you didn't go to the psychic. Did you, like,
No.
eat more?
I thought about it. I was in, like, a really crazy state of mind, man. No, I didn't. I think I ate less and I, like, cried more.
And just lay in bed?
I forget to eat. I just wouldn't, like, I'm under stress. I just don't eat. I forget. Like, other things are going on.
It's not when you're under stress, you forget to eat. It's when something seems interesting, you forget to eat.
So did she get therapy?
Okay, that's true.
Kim wants to know if you got
When
therapy
something
over
else
your
occupying
cat's
my
death.
attention. I didn't, because I don't
She's
know.
getting it right now.
I figure I'm that type of person that thinks I can figure it out myself.
So
Yeah.
have you figured it out?
I think I did. I'm at peace with it, so, or I guess I'm somewhat accepting of it. I don't think about it anymore. There, I said it. Like, I try not to think about it. I put it over there,
Yeah.
and that's it.
Yeah.
Think about it when I need to.
If I ever want to think about it, it's like I've got the video. I videotaped my burying my dog and put it up on the channel.
Really?
It was awful. It was the most awful thing, and I mean, it was the most awful moment. But the only part of it I videoed was I had to say that she was gone, and that you know. But I haven't rewatched the video. I've never watched the video one time, I don't think. I can't watch it. I have no interest.
Really?
I have no desire to watch it at all.
Because of why? But why?
Well,
because of what it is?
Because it's like it'll just bring out echoes of the despairing anguish of the moment, which is evident in the video, but which I don't typically re-experience very strongly as an echo compared to the moment. I've experienced it somewhat more strongly as an echo watching the video. Obviously nothing like the actual experience itself, but I mean, I just don't like bad feelings, basically. I don't like sad endings. I don't like I don't like injustice. I don't like to hear. If something's sad on the TV, I do not want to hear about it. I do not care how important this story is. I don't want to know if it's sad, if it seems cruel, if its elements are cruel. I just don't want to hear about it.
I mean, I get that to a certain extent, but I feel like I've been trying to practice feeling feelings. Ever since I found out about my Myers-Briggs type, I've been trying to experience feelings more. Because my mother is an ENFP. She's a super hardcore feeler. And I've been trying to connect with her more.
I've been trying to feel feelings more too.
I try to...
It annoys Kim when I try to experience my feelings because my FI always comes out as FE. I'm always like, I love you. And she's like, okay, all right.
And sometimes your FI comes out as really bad TI. Your FI comes out as bad TI. Courtney, why do you live in Florida?
Fiance. My fiance he got a job down here, so I made the move with him.
How long ago was that?
Almost 2 years.
What type's your fiance?
INTJ.
It's a pretty good match. Pretty good match. Not the right match, but pretty good. If you are an ESTP though, if you are an ESTP, then it is the right match. And I would suggest that to the extent that you seem more ESTP like, it would probably be because the INTJ seeking of SE would cause you to become more SE displaying in order to make your fiance happy, without even, not consciously, but just sort of naturally occurring.
Can you give me just like a brief description of SE versus? So I know SI is. I feel like I display more SI because and I relate this to video gaming or just I guess doing things in general. I tend to need to do something to feel how it feels before I can replicate it.
Okay.
I learn by doing.
Okay, well,
that's how I've always worded it.
Learn by doing, or learn by experiencing, or learn by learning yourself. All that is SI, which is SI. Okay. Introverted sensing is an epistemology function. It's how we know things. Introverted intuition is the other epistemology function. It's the other way to know things. SI knows things subjectively. So if I know something, I know it because I've learned it, I've deduced it, or whatever. It's in my memory from my experience, and it's fairly malleable. Mm-hmm. So even though it's knowledge, that is to say, assumed to be true without consideration, it's still knowledge that is subject to change. Maybe my memory was wrong. Maybe I misremembered it. Maybe wherever I learned it, I was taught it wrong. So those are reasons why SI is subjective. Hi, Joel. And also why it's an epistemology function. NI basically says, I know what I know about the world because these aspects of the world are implicit to the world. I've gleaned the truth about the world from the data in front of me. It's not because I've learned it specifically. It's that I've intuited it. And regardless, the point is, the truth is out there, external. I perceive it and know it. The truth is not something I create. Whereas with introverted sensing, the truth is something I learned, created, put on my timeline, did, whatever, that kind of stuff. So that's a big distinction between the two epistemologies. But the thing is, video gaming is not SI. That's Kim waving to you, Joel. That's not SI video gaming, really. It's more like SE, because, see, extroverted sensing is, number one, it's doing stuff instead of deliberating about it. And number two, it's following through on decisions already made instead of deliberating more. And number 3, in its real time aspect, it's about your interaction with two two or more bodies, not yourself, outside of you. So it's like if I'm playing soccer, I'm interacting with the ball and the other player, or the ball and the net, or something like that. In other words, my physical behavior, my placement as a body is assumed if I'm using extroverted sensing. It's like my body will take care of itself. It'll do what I'm willing it to do. I'm paying attention to what the other objects are. My introverted sensing in that context is ignored. So if I'm an extroverted sensing Dom and I'm playing soccer or anything else, I'm being very aware of the real time example is clearer to talk about, but it works on a metaphysical level too. But on the real time example, let's say soccer, I'm very aware about what everything around me is, and what I want to do with the ball and where I want to go and who I want to pass to and shit. But I'm not thinking at all intentionally, actively about where I am or what position my body is. That's doing it shit automatically. Now, if you were an introverted sensor, it's not really a great comparable, but an analogy would be if you were talking about soccer, the introverted sensor, who would be the player who's got the best sense of managing his own energy levels throughout the game so he's still strong at the end, who's got the best sense of drinking the right amount of water during the game to make sure he doesn't get dehydrated and lose that little extra energy that he would get if he wasn't dehydrated, making sure he's fed himself properly before the game, managing his workout regimen, all that kind of shit would be SI skills. It's about how you attend to the self as a soccer player, not how you tend to shit outside of you in the game. So that's SI and SE, and they're both physical functions. They're both about actual experience, not about meaning.
Okay. So I think video gaming is probably a bad example.
Well, video game is not a bad example because the thing is, when you're playing a game, it's like you're doing something very small in front of you that you can manage with regular sized stuff. So it's like it's really doing, just like it's SE. It's just that the objects aren't actually there in physical space. They're just representations of objects. The meaning making, if you like to play video games like a Sim City or something, where you're building a city up and it doesn't really have a competitive aspect to it. So it's like you're just creating a city, and you hope your city's better or bigger. You can make a cool city that's big and super economically busy. You can make
Hmm. Hmm. That sounds like Minecraft. Um. See, and that's where I'm kind of stuck. So normally I feel like I'm a very creative individual, but when I'm under that anxiety or stuff, I need instant, like I can't make decisions or I can't do stuff for long periods of time. I almost like need I guess, or someone to do it, or like force me to do it, or like but I fucking hate exercise. But I don't want to, and I don't want to go to a doctor to get it. But Oh my God, that's me. Like sometimes I walk, this is like the low of low is me walking in a circle, a literal circle around the house and then forgetting what I was going to do in the very beginning and being like, what do I do now? What was I going to do? I don't remember anymore. What do I do now? But here's the thing, like all right, so I'm currently in college. I'm studying computer science. When I'm in school and I have something to do, something to focus that energy towards, I'm fine. Like I'm under stress, but it's a different type of stress. It's not the kind of stress where I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with me? And then I succeed. Like I don't know how to explain it. It's just when I don't have that, and I'm just like, what do I do? I'm done with school. What do I do?
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Training of Christmas.
Just feel like for a walk for 20 minutes, and then the next day walk for 21, and then keep going, and then until you get to half an hour, and then you jog for 20 minutes until you get to half an hour, and then you do that every day.
What about drink alcohol and just smoke some weed? Like that won't work. Yeah, I know, but I only do it at night, so I reel it in a little bit. No, I can't.
I have a question for you, Courtney.
Yes.
In high school and now in college, how did your social circles change, or did they?
They didn't really. I was kind of like the, I don't know, self-brooding type. And I kind of like I'm more open to interaction. I'm more outgoing, but I also don't care about other people. Self-brooding, like brooding is brooding. Like brooding.
Brooding.
Like I was the kid that wore headphones and like listened to Led Zeppelin and walked through the halls and talked to people. But then I like I don't know. I got along with everyone. I didn't care for certain people. Like everyone said I had bitch face, I guess, in high school. So I started smiling more. That was the difference now. I smile more. I think that's what the meow was in high school, but I didn't think I was smart in high school. I thought I was a waste of space in high school. But in college, I'm really fucking smart. Like I get A's on everything. I apply myself. I just really I think it's a way for me to prove I'm not a fucking idiot to part of my family. Truly. Is there? But isn't like grades like the easiest and like the quickest? I agree. But it's also going to help me get a good job, isn't it? And then I'll learn more knowledge.
Eric, you know that most of the people concerned are not very discerning, which is the point here.
Because they're family.
Because they make up a huge part of your life, regardless of whether you want them to or not. I mean, I guess you could just kind of cut them out like my sister would.
And the other thing is, I think you got to accept that they're not going to. I just accept that they're not following what you want to produce.
So,
like, do the good grades, do your good grades make you feel good?
Yeah, they do. Because I got like C's and D's and shitty grades in high school, and like I just didn't apply myself. And like now I'm like, oh, okay, like if I actually apply myself, I can learn the knowledge and get good grades. And then get a good job, I suppose, and make lots of money. End game. And like everyone, like.
I'll dispute it because I grew up playing video games. I still have my 8-bit Nintendo that I pull out from time to time, and I can beat everybody.
Yeah.
And I'm an INFJ. Huh? That is too, just because I didn't keep upping the system.
Don't discount that. That is game. Like you game. That's part of the problem in gaming right now. Is like a lot of people discount types of gaming, like what it means to be a gamer. And you game. You're a gamer.
Thanks. I took it to school last spring. No, Eric, you time out. You've been talking. It's my turn. I took it to school and I had all the teenagers think I was like some god of video games because I produced the gold Zelda game from Nintendo. That's it. I'm done.
That's kind of funny.
I never played Zelda, so I can't relate, but it sounds like
you're not a gamer. You're just not a gamer, Courtney.
I get that. That's why I'm like, oh, I guess I'm not a gamer. I never played the Zelda, so you know.
What do you think you are?
What do you mean?
What your personality type?
I think I'm an ENTP, but I think I might. There are times where I think I'm a normal functioning ENTP, but there are times where I'm like, I must be the unhealthy version. And that's why I think I come here is to kind of learn more about it.
I get